Alright, welcome back to Dirty Dave's Garage. I don't know if you can hear this on the video, but the alternator's going bad on our 2008 Scion. That's what an alternator sounds like when it's starting to go bad on the Scion. So we're going to be pulling that off and replacing it. I had to charge it up. My son got stranded on the side of the road. Everything died on him. And it's just not charging the battery, so we're going to get it in the shop and get it replaced. Okay, so now we're down in the garage. I got the car off so everybody can hear me. First thing we're going to do, we're going to disconnect the negative battery terminal so we can start getting the connections for our alternator disconnected. I believe there's three. There's one here, and one here. Once I'll show you guys how to take them off, and you're going to have a nut here to remove this little bracket. But you want to get all them loose before you do anything else. If you wonder why the motor's a little wet, I did a little degreasing. Our valve cover's leaking a little. Valve cover gasket, so we're going to probably do some video of that, make a separate video showing you how to replace that. And hopefully it'll be something helpful to you down the road. But I just cleaned it up a little so we weren't dealing with all the dirt and grime. So let me get situated here and we'll show you what needs to happen. Alright, so we got the negative battery cable disconnected. I'll show you here, but I put my charger on because the battery's pretty much dead from the alternator not working. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to remove these three connections, 1, 2, and 3. This one's a little tricky. I think I cracked mine a little, but I just pried up on it. I'm sure there's some way to release it. I just couldn't figure out how. I squeezed, I did everything else, but that just covers up this bolt, which I believe is a 10 mil. This connector, it's got a squeeze tab underneath. Just push it in and pull it off. Same one with this. It has like a rubber sleeve over it. But I pulled it away so I could see what was going on. You can leave it on, but you just push from the top here. Push that. Try to do it with one hand here. Squeeze it and just jiggle it out. Once you got all these loose, and you just unhook that, get your wiring loom out of the way. Then you're going to have some 14mm bolts over here. We'll move the light when we get to that part. I'm going to go ahead and get this wire off, and then we'll come back and show you what bolts to remove on this side. One quick note, make a note of the path of your serpentine belt. I'm going to be replacing this one because it's due. I have a new one to put on. It's pretty simple. I think there's one pulley in the back here, and let me see if I can get the light over here so you can see what I'm talking about. And it loops around the larger water pump pulley in the middle. The ribs go on the outside on that large water pump pulley, and it goes around I guess that's the air conditioning compressor at the bottom, and then back to your alternator here. So it's kind of like an A shape with the one pulley way in the back there, if you could see it. And that's, I believe, all it's, and then there's a tensioner there, if you can see that it has to go around as well. So just make a note, put a little diagram down. You got your crankshaft down at the bottom that goes over. Make sure you know how to put the belt back on when you're done. Or if you're not changing your belt and you're just doing the alternator, you can hook something through the loop up here once you get your alternator loose and hold your belt in place so you can put it back over the pulley. One other note, you'll have a 10mm bolt here on this bracket as well. Once you have that, take that out also. We've got our bolt off of this one, and I put them in a magnetic tray up here so I wouldn't lose them. So the wiring is disconnected at this point. We got 1, 2, pardon my cord, and 3 down here connections. They're all loose. So now we're going to take these 14mm bolts out. We're going to start with this one, and then there's one underneath of it. I think there's only two, but if there's not, I'll come back. So let me get those two bolts off and we'll be back. Alright, so as you can see, I made a crude drawing of my, I'm no Picasso, crude drawing of how it looks like the pulley goes on. The alternator's up here. Hopefully this will help you. I believe this is the tensioner here, because it comes off the alternator, comes around back here. I'm guessing that's either the AC or the air compressor that's in the engine. Goes up around this tensioner and then back around. My drawing's not exactly accurate. This is actually back a little further. This is like your crankshaft pulley down here, the big one at the bottom. Comes from there around either the AC. I didn't look close enough to see if it was AC or the air compressor pulley here. And around the water pump pulley, and then back to the alternator. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm going to go ahead and try to find where the bolts are to get the alternator off. Okay, we're back. Not sure if you can see it, but just to make things a little easier, I released the tension via the tensioner. Hopefully you can see down there. I put a 19 mil socket on a breaker bar, and the tensioner bolt's a little tricky to find, but if you look down in there, you'll see it. It's right above the tensioner pulley. And I just push down on the breaker bar, which is, I'm trying to do this with one hand, right here. That's the breaker bar handle. And there's just enough room to push that down, take the tension off the belt, and get it slided off of the alternator. Now, the two bolts on the alternator, the top one is a 14 mil, and that, hang with me a second, the 14 mil was right here. There's a 12 mil down below that you can't really see. You just have to feel for it and find it. But I pulled that out as well. So you're going to need a 14 mil and a 12 mil ratchet. So hopefully now, let's get the light up. And there we go. Hopefully you can see that now. It should be ready to come out. I've already disconnected all the wires. Let me find my breaker bar or pry bar. Pretty sure it should just come right out. Yeah, it's ready to pop out. So I'm going to take this out. It's out. It's loose now. I'm just going to grab it and pull it out. I can't do it with the camera in my hands. I'll have to move the wiring harness out of the way and pull it out this way in the direction of the oil stick, kind of through there. You might have to move some hoses and whatnot. But it's free. It's ready to come out, and the new one's ready to go in. Okay, so real quick, while I had everything apart, I went ahead and put the car up on my lift, and I popped this little plastic shield off from the wheel well to expose the lower part. It was easier to get the belt out down here since I was changing the belt. So it might save you some time to jack it up, take the wheel off, and pull that little pocket off so you can reach up in there and fish your cable through. You kind of have to, when you put it on this back pulley, you got to fold it sideways to get it up in there. There's not much clearance, but it'll go up there. And follow the diagram I posted a little while ago and make sure you route it that way, and you should be good to go. All that holds these in are these little push pins. You just put a flathead screwdriver underneath, whoop, and pop it up, and then pull it out, and they come out. So I'm going to put those back together now because I've got the belt routed, and get the car down so we can finish the alternator. Be right back. So once I got my new belt routed and had it fed up through here, I grabbed a little bendy tie and just tied it on gently to the AC line, just so it doesn't fall down in there and come undone and have to do it all over again. So it's there until I get the alternator in, then I can unhook that and put my 19-inch wrench back on the tensioner bolt and hopefully slip the belt onto the new alternator. So we're going to grab the new alternator and get that going. One more quick tip. If you notice down here, I went ahead and put the lower bolt in because this is just like a slip bracket where it goes through this and then screws into the bottom tab of the alternator. I'm going to leave that there. Hopefully it won't fall down in there, but that way I don't have to fish for the hole. I can just get the alternator down there, and I'm going to try to get the bottom bolt started first. Once I get it threaded in, then I'll work on the top part. Alright, so we got the alternator in place. I got a breaker bar, 19 mil, on the pulley to loosen it up, the idler pulley, whatever you call it, tensioner. And I might have to stick another wrench on the end so I can push down and slip the belt on at the same time, because it's really tight. I'm not gonna lie, this is probably the hardest part of the job, is getting the belt back on, because there is no room. There's a special tool you can get, which I have, but I'm missing a part of it that lets you go in kind of at an angle. It's like a flat bar with an attachment that goes on, and it comes with an assortment of crow's feet, open end wrenches, and a few sockets. But I can't seem to find the piece that goes on to let you get in there at an angle. It's kind of like a, I don't know, 60-degree angle. Lets you put it in a 60-degree angle and move those tensioner pulleys like that. But can't seem to find mine. So I'm going to try to do it this way. If I get it on, I'll tell you how I did it once I get it on. All right, so here's the trick. Take the top bolt. Keep the top bolt out of the alternator, because it lets you push it back a little further. And if you've got one of these tools, I found the other part to mine I was looking for, so I can show it to you. It's basically two pieces, and it lets you, let's hold it out here, put that little arm on at any angle. It's got like a star-shaped hole, so you can put that in at any angle, because there's very little room here to turn this thing. But this definitely helps. You might be able to do it without it. I've seen people do it without it, but it looks like a real pain in the ass. But definitely makes the job easier. So now all I got to do is put the top bolt back in. I'll probably have to use a screwdriver to pry the alternator back just a hair to line the bolt up, but it should go right in. And then I'll tighten that bottom bolt back up after I get the top one in. I just loosened the bottom bolt enough to let it move. And so it's only going to take me a couple turns, because it's a pain in the ass tightening that bottom bolt. So let me get the top bolt back in. We'll see what we got.